What up, nerds? This is Clay Cooper from Prep Expert. I've got 2 perfect scores on the SAT and 1 perfect score on the ACT. And today I'm going to teach you the rules for using a colon. Alright, colon questions show up all over both the SAT and the ACT. So we need to be really good at answering colon questions, both when a colon is what you need to use and if a colon is in an incorrect answer choice. In either case, we need to know the rules governing colons so that we can sort through the answer choices. So let's take a look at the 4 rules governing the use of a colon. Now, a lot of students arrive in my classes thinking that the use of a colon is governed by some kind of mystical, subjective law that they can never understand, right? That maybe you just use one when it feels right. But actually, the use of a colon is governed by 4 hard and fast rules, at least on the SAT and ACT. And we can master those rules. Let's take a look at them now. Rule number 1 is that there must always be an independent clause on the left side of a colon. If there is no independent clause on the left, it is wrong. Period. If you're not sure what an independent clause is, check out Prep Expert's other YouTube videos for a more in-depth explanation. But in short, an independent clause consists of a subject and a predicate. It is a sentence that could stand on its own. So there has to be an independent clause on the left. End of story. Next, we have rule number 2, which tells you what can happen on the right side of a colon. Essentially, in terms of grammatical structures, you can do whatever you want on the right side of a colon except use a dependent clause. So, just to illustrate, you can have an independent clause and then a single word. That's actually okay. You can have an independent clause and then a fragment. That's okay as well. You can have an independent clause and then a list, as a lot of students are familiar with. In fact, you can even do an independent clause and another independent clause. All of these are okay. What you can't do is an independent clause and then a dependent clause. So to give you some examples, I could say, I know what we should do. Panic. We could also say, I know where to go. Back to Cincinnati. We could also say, I'll take some friends. Bob, Mike, and Susie. We could even say, I know what we have to do. We must break into the Department of Mysteries. Any of these is a valid grammatical construction as long as we obey the other rules. What we couldn't do is something like this. Independent clause colon dependent clause. For instance, I know why Draco is so salty all the time. Because he's a Slytherin. Who could blame him? But the bottom line is this is grammatically incorrect because we have a dependent clause on the right side of a colon. You can tell because that dependent clause begins with the subordinating conjunction because. You can't have a dependent clause on the right side of the colon. However, there is a very simple fix for this problem. If I just eliminate the subordinating conjunction because, then what remains is a simple independent clause. So now I have independent clause colon independent clause, and that would work. But again, you can't use a colon with a dependent clause on its right. End of story. That rule's beautifully simple. All right. Rule number 3. Rule number 3 is pretty simple as well. It says you must create a sense of expectation on the left and fulfill it on the right. This is kind of the why you would use a colon. Why would you use a colon? If you want to create and fulfill a sense of expectation, that's when you should do it. Let me give you an example. If I said, I like one band more than any other. Do you know what's coming next? Not specifically. In other words, you don't know who my favorite band is, but you do know that you're about to find out, right? When the reader arrives at the colon, they know in general what's coming next. We have created a sense of expectation on the left. The sense of expectation is that I'll tell you who my favorite band is next. And as long as I fulfill that expectation in the blank, then I've used a colon correctly. What I could not do, by contrast, is throw a colon in a situation like this. There was a dog outside my window. Colon. What comes after that colon? Who knows? It could be, and it's barking. Or it could be, his name is Rex. Or it could be, but it ran away. Something like that. When the reader arrives at that colon, they don't know what's coming next, so we haven't created a sense of expectation on the left and fulfilled it on the right. We've broken rule number 3. So again, rule number 3 is you must create a sense of expectation on the left and fulfill it on the right. Beautifully simple. Rule number 4 is very simple as well. All it is Once you fulfill the sense of expectation, stop talking. All that means is, once you fulfill the sense of expectation on the right side of the colon, you can't carry on with the sentence after that. That is the end of the sentence. For instance, I couldn't say, I like one band most, brand new, and they're from Long Island. The problem there is that I fulfilled the sense of expectation by telling you who my favorite band is, but then I kept talking. You can't keep talking after you fulfilled the sense of expectation. That's the end of the sentence. So again, colons are governed by 4 hard and fast rules, at least on the SAT and ACT. Those rules are beautifully simple. There must be an independent clause on the left. You can do whatever you want on the right in terms of grammatical structure, except use a dependent clause. You must create a sense of expectation on the left and fulfill it on the right. And once you fulfill the sense of expectation on the right, you have to stop talking. If you obey those 4 rules, you've used the colon correct. Let's take a look at an example problem to put these rules to work. For decades, one aspect of the conventional wisdom about macronutrients has been clear. Fat is unhealthy. Increasingly, however, medical professionals and the public are questioning this simplistic understanding. So let's take a look at each of these answer choices one by one. First of all, I think it's incorrect the way it's written, because what we have is one aspect of the conventional wisdom about macronutrients has been clear. That itself is an independent clause. If we follow an independent clause with a comma and another independent clause, that's a run-on. Caused by a comma splice, it's incorrect. So the way the sentence is currently written, it is a run-on sentence, it's incorrect. What about B? If I replace the comma with a period, then I have independent clause period, but then I'm following that independent clause with subordinating conjunction, subject, verb, which taken together form a dependent clause. So I would have independent clause period, dependent clause period. But a dependent clause can't stand on its own as a sentence. In other words, in more simple terms, because fat is unhealthy, can't stand on its own as a sentence, so I can't use B. What about D? Let's take a look at it real quick. For decades, one aspect of the conventional wisdom about macronutrients has been clear, comma, so fat is unhealthy. That actually is okay in terms of pure grammatical structure, because I have an independent clause, a comma, a coordinating conjunction, so, and then another independent clause. In terms of grammar structure, that's okay. However, it messes up the meaning of the sentence. The fact that fat is unhealthy is not a result of the fact that one aspect of conventional wisdom has been clear. And when we say one aspect has been clear, so fat is unhealthy, that is asserting that fat is unhealthy as a result of the conventional wisdom being clear. It messes up the meaning of the sentence to use the word so right there. So D is incorrect. Now let's make sure that answer choice C obeys the 4 rules governing the use of a colon. First of all, if we pick answer choice C, is it true that what's on the left side of the colon is an independent clause? I think it is. One aspect of the conventional wisdom about macronutrients has been clear. If we put a colon right there, we do in fact have an independent clause on the left. So rule number 1's good. What about rule number 2? Rule number 2 says you can do whatever you want on the right as long as it's not a dependent clause. So if we were to say fat is unhealthy on the right, is that a dependent clause? No, that's an independent clause. In fact, it's a complete sentence. So we've obeyed rule number 2 as well. What about rule number 3? Rule number 3 requires that you create a sense of expectation on the left and fulfill it on the right. What is the sense of expectation on the left here? One aspect of the conventional wisdom about macronutrients has been clear, colon. When I arrive at that colon, I think we're about to hear which aspect of the conventional wisdom about macronutrients has been clear. And then we get the colon, and then we get a sentence, fat is unhealthy. I think that is an aspect about the conventional wisdom of macronutrients that has been clear for quite a while. In other words, we created a sense of expectation and then we delivered on the right side of the colon and fulfilled that sense of expectation. The aspect of conventional wisdom that has been clear is that fat is unhealthy. So, I think we've obeyed rule number 3 as well by creating and fulfilling a sense of expectation. Finally, rule number 4, once you fulfill the sense of expectation, you have to stop talking. I think we've obeyed that here as well because we fulfilled the sense of expectation by observing that it used to be asserted that fat is unhealthy. That is the aspect of conventional wisdom that was clear. We fulfilled that sense of expectation and we didn't say anything else, so we've obeyed rule number 4. That's why our answered choice is C. So that's all I've got for you today. Please don't forget to throw us a like if you found this video helpful. You can also subscribe to Prep Expert's YouTube channel for other videos just like this one. In fact, we'd love it if you'd leave us a comment below this video. Let us know what you want advice on from a 2-time perfect score in our next video. We might feature your suggestion as the topic for our next video. You can also find a coupon code in the description below this video that you can use on our website, prepexpert.com, for discounts on all of our products. You can sign up for a course with myself or another instructor, or sign up for tutoring if you'd prefer that. So until next time, keep working hard.